September is one of the best times to plan a trip to Scotland. I'm going to give you some of my best tips from my trip. I hope you love the cold and I hope you love the rain. But most of all, I hope you're prepared to see some of the most spectacular, beautiful views of your life. Hi, I'm Cher, and I love sharing travel with you. If you love travel like I do, then make sure you pop that subscribe button, stick around, and let's see what adventures await us. And welcome back to the Travel Channel, guys. I am Cher, and I cannot believe it has been 2 years today, at the time of my filming, since I landed in my dream country of Scotland. So we are going to talk today in this video all about some of the things I have learned, tips I want to share if you are also planning a trip around this time in September. Did you know that September is actually the cheapest time to go to Scotland travel-wise? I've really wanted to do this video for a long time, but I have another channel that keeps me very busy, and I just said I'm going to do it. I had actually done a pre-trip video sharing how I was packing, tips I had heard on how to pack, but I didn't have the experience yet. So now that I've had the experience and I've shared a lot of videos with you guys from a couple of years ago, we're going to actually talk about it from personal experience of how I recommend that you pack and just things to think about, things that might shock you, everything you might need to know for your trip. So let's dig into it. So how to dress is the first thing we're going to tackle. What's the weather like? All of that. So it's September, the fall temperatures. The UK measures everything in Celsius, whereas us here in America, where I am at, we measure it in Fahrenheit. So I'm going to talk in terms of Fahrenheit. I'm going to say temps were somewhere between, 40s and 60s on average. So a little chilly, but not terrible. As a Floridian myself, I found that when I was in Edinburgh and the places further south in Scotland, there were times I was actually hot. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So dressing in layers is a good idea. But then there were times when I was up in the Highlands, up further north towards Inverness, where I was freezing cold, especially as that wind off the lochs and the water starts hitting you. It is bone chilling cold. So even if it's, 40s, 50s, it might feel like zero because it's just that cold with the winds blowing. So dressing in layers is definitely one tip, or, when you're going to be planning for further north, you probably will be safer to just bundle up extra, but then have some backups for when you're further south along the borders around Edinburgh. I found that I was the only person walking around Edinburgh that actually had no jacket on part of the time. I mean, I literally was in a tank top because I was getting hot from all the walking. You will be doing a lot, and I mean a lot of walking. Stairs everywhere, hills everywhere. It's a lot of walking. You're going to burn a lot of calories. I was able to eat whatever I wanted, and I still lost weight because of all the walking. So be prepared for that. Tons of walking in Edinburgh, up big hills. It's tiring. So I got very hot and broke a sweat quite a bit. Now, regardless of whether I was very fully bundled though, up further north, or bare on the arms down south, one thing that I was always wearing and that was very consistent was my trusty beanie. You will see this beanie in just about every video I had. This is the main staple I took with me, and it was definitely a necessity. Something I highly recommend is a beanie because it really holds the heat in. It keeps your head warm, and when your head is warm, the rest of you is warm. That's probably why I also got pretty hot walking around and had to remove my jacket. And as far as your outerwear goes, I would suggest probably at least one very heavy coat, very warm and insulated. So something for the very, very, very cold moments up there in the Highlands. But then I also recommend more of like a raincoat type jacket too, like a windbreaker. I think they call it in the UK trackies, if I have that right. So something that's weather resistant, because the other thing you're going to see in Scotland is it rains every day. It'll be sunny on you for 20 minutes and then the next thing you know, the rain comes out of nowhere. But there's always beautiful rainbows wherever you go in Scotland. You are never missing rainbows. That's one thing I love about the beauty of the country. So then that also goes with even your pants and your shoes. So let's talk about that for a moment. Now, I pretty much wore either like yoga pants or jeans every day. I would almost recommend though more maybe like windbreaker style pants as well, or some kind of like the cargo pants that can get wet that have a little bit of the water repellent aspect to them. The more of those you have, the better. But I was pretty good with just jeans and like leggings or yoga pants most of the time. However, I will say that when you get up into those more northern areas in the Highlands, it just turns so cold that yoga pants might not cut it. The jeans were honestly better for me. And then one mistake I made was having low cut socks one day with tennis shoes, and my ankles were kind of exposed a little more than I wanted them to be. And I was absolutely freezing. I would recommend save the tennis shoes and the lower cut socks or something more for the lower, like the lowlands, the Edinburgh area, the borders, where you're going to be walking a lot. You might want some comfortable tennis shoes, but you want some good socks that cover the ankles, maybe some nice wool socks. I wouldn't say boots unless they're really comfortable for walking, because you'll be walking a lot in more of the cities. I'd say for the Highland areas though, you're going to want boots. You're going to want either high boots, still that you can walk in, or hiking boots, or hiking sneakers. But if you do the hiking sneakers that are lower cut, I would still say get you some really good wool socks. So another big mistake I made with my shoes, in addition to having exposed ankles, was I wore the wrong kind of boots, especially for when we went hiking. We did the ferry pulls on the Isle of Skye, and this is what I wore. I loved these boots. I thought they had that very like riding boots, UK style. I thought it was so fashionable and it was the perfect style for Scotland. But this is what happened to them. They are completely like broken apart. It did not look like this. It was a much newer pair of boots. This is worn down so much and so bent. This is from the ferry pulls. They did not hold up with these kind of boots. So you're going to want something, first of all, with a lot of tread, but something that doesn't bend as easily in the material. You don't want leather or faux leather. You're going to want something more like this, a hiking sneaker or hiking boots. Really good tread, made to hold up through lots of muddy, rocky waters that you'll be trekking through for hours. If you really want to go see those spectacular sights, you gotta give up the cute fashion, switch it up for the usefulness. Something that holds out the water, because the water was getting through in here and my socks were all soggy, and then walking around for hours with soggy socks is no fun, leads to blisters, you name it. So definitely the shoes that I recommend are going to be hiking sneakers, really, hiking boots. If you just have that one pair, that probably will do well for everywhere. Now, as far as baggage and whatnot, you have to think about your flight, guidelines and how much baggage you're allowed on your flight. Anyway, I was trying to shove everything into just one carry-on and a personal item, and that was for an entire over a week in Scotland. Part of it was that I was going with 4 of us girls all crammed into a small little tiny rental car, which they have even smaller cars in the UK, by the way. So we just didn't have room for all the luggage. So I had to pack very minimally. I also will really recommend that you make sure that you save plenty of room for all your souvenirs you want to bring back. Save some space in there too in your packing. But what I did was I just brought a little fanny pack with me, a cute fashionable one though, that I would wear everywhere. I kept my passport on a little chain like necklace around my neck, and then would tuck it down in my shirt, and like some important things like a couple of credit cards, the passport, cash or pounds. And then I would also keep some in the fanny pack as well. That way, if anything was stolen, at least I had things spread out in different places. I felt pretty safe walking around though, the UK. I have heard if you're in some places like London instead, you want to be a little more careful, be mindful of holding your phone out. It can get snatched right out of your hands, but it was nothing like that in Scotland when I was there. It was very safe. Of course, you know, I wasn't walking and lurking around after hours at night in the deep city. You know, I tried to get back at good times, and we all went as a group of girls, you know, the four of us. So, you know, we did a lot of things together. But it did feel very safe there. Just always use common sense. Don't hold your money out for the world to see. A lot of places took money off of apps. I really barely used my pounds or the coins with it because every place took credit cards pretty much wherever I went. So just bring a little bit of extra cash or, you know, actual currency with you as backup just in case. There's also ATMs everywhere as well, especially more in the cities, not as much out in the highlands. But you don't want to bring too much with you because then you're going to have to bring that back with you, and it's not worth as much when you get back to the US because our currency rates, you know, our dollar's worth a little more than the pound. So keep that in mind. Another thing that is a cultural shock if you're coming from the US is there's a lot of places that don't have air conditioning there. So it's not as bad in some areas because they pretty much just keep the windows open. And of course it's chilly outside. So if you've got a nice breeze coming in, you're mostly good. And then there were times we were deep in the highlands where it was just cold. So I didn't get hot. However, there were some places where I couldn't get the windows open the right way, or they had them locked down and it was burning up and so stuffy inside. Us Americans are just not used to no air circulation. So I was literally almost getting sick. I was so hot and stuffy in there. One little inn that I stayed at, they actually provided a big room fan for you. So I kind of got by, but it was still hot if I was walking out of line of the circulation of the fan. But there was another place where we were at a bed and breakfast. I thought I was going to pass out. It was terrible. It was, of course, cold outside, but it was just so stuffy inside. If you're staying at more of a hotel or a chain, they tend to have air conditioning more in those places, but some of your historical little inns downtown in the center city in Edinburgh and whatnot, no air conditioning. Some of those historical buildings, they're not made for air circulation. In fact, the buildings are made to hold the heat inside because it gets cold in the Highlands and it gets cold everywhere in Scotland. So they're like a furnace inside those buildings. It's something us Americans are just not used to. And I think we tend to like it a lot colder than the UK folks. Like they can withstand a lot better temperatures than us, or no air circulation or something. You might want to double check whenever you're booking your hotel stays or your bed and breakfast or your Airbnbs, wherever you're staying around in Scotland. Ask them about the air conditioning so that you can be prepared for what might lay ahead as far as the weather and temperatures go. Another little cultural shock might be that you really don't have to tip as much there as we do here in the United States. So they pay their workers very well so that they don't really expect tips from us. You can tip, but it's not just a standard expected thing where you've really gypped them if you don't. Or if you do, you might not have to tip as much as you would here. I did still tend to tip my taxi drivers at times. I wasn't doing as much as at the restaurants. You will find too, though, I did not find that the service was quite as fast as in the US. I think, you know, they're not really working for a tip, so they didn't really have the motivation to get to our table in a hurry. It was very slow service. I'm not saying it was bad service. I just noticed that things moved a lot slower in Scotland than they do here. Just a little, my own observations. So that's as far as planning the money that you should bring. So you're really, you know, you don't have to bring a lot of extra money on tips. You don't have to plan for a lot of extra to have to carry on you since most places do take credit card. And then another cultural shock is you will have to pay to pee. Yeah. So be careful about making sure you empty your bladder, because you might get stuck and have to go to the bathroom, and you might be in a place where you can't just walk in and go to the bathroom for free. If you want to stop somewhere to use the public restrooms, they have sort of a meter style where you have to pay to go to the bathroom. Carry plenty of coins on you for that too, because usually they just take coins. And don't forget, when you need to find an elevator, use the word lift. When you need to find the bathroom, use the word toilet. I know it's weird to us. We don't really ask for the toilet. That's kind of unsavory. But no, the toilet means the bathroom there. And I think in closing, one of my last tips is probably going to be make sure that you pay full respect to the beautiful land, to the beautiful people that are there. I've heard a little rumor that not all of the Scots love us Americans coming to their land. They've seen an influx of tourists, which do boost their economy, but on the other hand, there are some very sacred areas that have just been destroyed from all of the foot traffic and from people coming and visiting and disrespecting the area. Isle of Skye is one in particular, and we want to make sure that we are doing our part to help preserve these beautiful places, honoring these lands for more generations to come that can appreciate all the beauty that is there. So those are a lot of the tips that I can share from my actual personal experience. Finally, it only took me 2 years. So let's hope it's not another 2 years before my next video, as I hope to be bringing you future trips as well. The beautiful bonny land of Scotland awaits, so make sure you stay tuned, pop the subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys all on the next one. Bye.